It's an exciting Tuesday afternoon. We are here once more to take a look at issues as they emanate internationally. Welcome to International Forum. I am Wilson Marshall. Today is all about the face-off, or what you call standoff, between the Democrats and the Republicans in the Senate. Yes, Trump impeachment. Which way is it going to go from what is really going on? The witness has been called upon, and of course the persons, the caliber of senators talking in the House for and against Donald Trump. My analyst will be the one to throw more light on that. Before that, let's take a look at some stories making rounds globally. You might have heard about coronavirus. Yes, it started from the province of Wuhan in China. And hundreds have been affected, going to thousands have been affected, to the extent that the Chinese government used to extend their New Year holiday by 3 days just to curtail the spread of this coronavirus. The U.S. have gotten a case already of coronavirus, and sadly the first African country to really report this case is Ivory Coast. Yes, Ivory Coast, they've gotten a case also of coronavirus, which is the first country in Africa. And coronavirus death toll rises to 106 as China tightens measure. Right now, there is no known cure. What they are doing is a preventive measure, okay? This is not to cause panic. You have to be health conscious. Thank God for Nigerian Airport Authority. Thank God for immigration. From what they are telling us, they are set, they are ready to really safeguard the country from this deadly virus. U.S., they are quite sad. It's like it's almost going out of control, but this will just make the World Health Organization with all their affiliates to beef up health security for everyone on planet Earth. Right now, let's move straight down to what happened in Iraq. It's like the beef of Iran against U.S. is still very much on. This time around, rockets hit U.S. embassy in Baghdad amid protests. Their cafeteria, the dining hall, it was hit, and of course some other parts also of the U.S. embassy were hit. Well, there were no case of death reported, but several were injured, and this is not so good for the relationship between Iran and the U.S., because from what Iran said after the death of Qasem Soleimani, it is like going to be fire for fire, and the targets are U.S. embassy, not the homeland U.S., but their interests around the globe. And this time around, Iraq is like warning Iran and of course U.S. not to make them to be caught in the middle of all this. They want to like drag Iraq into what is not prepared for. How do you think peace can be resolved in all this? Will this attack on the U.S. embassy in Iraq and Donald Trump to do something maybe out of annoyance or maybe out of a warning to Iran to stay clear of U.S. interests? You never can tell. But Iraq is blaming both Iran and the U.S. for what just happened yesterday. Let's see how this can be resolved. Of course, I have a clergyman here with me in the studio, a political analyst, both local and international politics is well grounded. Join me to welcome Reverend Humphrey Arega. Reverend, welcome to the show.
My pleasure. Good afternoon, everyone.
All right. So very close to Reverend is a legal practitioner and environmentalist, both local and international politics is well grounded. Join me to welcome Barrister Chima Williams. Barrister, welcome.
Thank you, Wilson, for having me.
And of course, he's like, having this soft spot for Donald Trump, a Republican, so to speak. Hope you don't mind that.
I really mind.
And see, very close to him is a vibrant youth. When we talk about political analysis, he's well grounded. Local and international politics, that's his forte. Join me to welcome Williams, wife for Williams. Welcome to the show.
Good afternoon, Wilson. Good afternoon, viewers.
And of course, at heart, he's a Democrat. Hope you don't mind.
No, I don't.
Reverend, I'd like you to start off this match, so to speak. Now, we've heard what the House of Rep, they talked about Donald Trump, though some persons are like saying that it's truly speedy. They didn't follow due process, and there was an impeachment slammed on the U.S. president. And the next step is for them to go to the House of Senate. And Republicans, they are talking tough, saying they are going to give this also a speedy hearing. But there is nothing they will talk about. The president will remain the president. Take it up from there, Reverend. How do you view this? Two great houses talking tough over a singular man.
Thank you very much. And I'm sure that if you follow the trend of events, you are very much abreast. And that is, to me, that's democracy in action as the process begins. We're talking about the constitutional responsibility of presidents of the House as elected members of the public, and then looking at issues. The House of Reps, they looked at the activities and the issues around the president vis-a-vis some actions, especially now we're talking of the Ukraine. The law of the country says that once the parliament has passed a bill authorizing an expenditure, the executive has no right to defy it, except it goes back to the House with some reasonings why it must be altered. That the president didn't do. They also have this understanding, from available records of what they have seen, that the purpose was for political interference. Again, it's against the American Constitution, saying that no man should invite foreign help in determining the elections in America. And that's what they have accused him of, two things. It is said that the House, my only downplaying the matter is that they make it too partisan, to me. Not because the House would have loved it to be partisan, but you see, I started reasoning in my house and I said, in this area, we are beginning to see that there's no difference in American politics and African politics. Because human beings are human beings. And they talk of their interests far above what you might call the national interest. Here we're talking about political interests. During the House debates, I didn't hear the Republicans saying that what you are saying is wrong, it's not correct. They have not collaborated it. But they start talking of the fact that from beginning, Democrats do not like, vow to remove him by all means. And that's exactly what they think they're doing. See, I felt that if you accuse me of wrongdoing, and I know I have the facts to back it up, I let it out. That the president decided not to allow persons or information needed to look at the issues to be for me, it's always somebody who has something to hide that blocks every avenue. So to me, they might say that the Democrat-led House did a rush job. It wasn't so much as a rush job. It also that they had situations when they were talking of the tax issues with the president, and every time there was told, they went to the courts. And the court process in America is not like Nigeria, that you can sit down and decide in one day. That takes a long time, and they have time. Each of the issues are valuable now, have time frame. And so they were looking at the time frame, and they took whatever they want to take. You see, I also feel that the Senate, the reps only just an indictment. The impeach you means that you have been indicted of wrongdoing.
Okay.
But then it is a part of the Senate, it's the House of the Senate that determines whether you can now be removed or not. And that's why it's been presided over by the Chief Justice, which means the law at play.
Okay.
Okay, I'm sure by the time we develop
I will come back to you on that. Now, from what he said, he talked about partisan, he talked about politics, talked about party. He went further to say that from what he's saying right now and what is happening in America, there's no difference between African politics and, of course, American politics. But the Republicans accuse the Democrats of speedy judgment, that they don't like the president of Donald Trump. From what he also highlighted, he said, look, the Republicans, they didn't refute the allegations against President Donald Trump, but they are talking about the person. Take it up from the Barrister Chima Williams.
Well, Wilson, thank you very much, and Reverend, thank you for laying this foundation. Though I disagree with your opening, because you almost already have passed judgment. Now, all right, in looking at this from a neutral point of view, what are the issues What are the issues? Clearly, it's all playing politics. And I agree with Reverend, that there is no difference between the American politics and the Nigerian or African politics, where the players don't place the interest of the citizens above personal prejudices. Now, even if we start looking at the emergence of this article of impeachment, invocation of it, what led to it? Violence. Of course, it is not right for any executive officer not to implement what the legislature has already passed on as a bill or as a law, as an act. Okay? It is wrong. But it is not every time that those kind of wrongs, will make sense to the citizens. And where the politics about it comes on is that, like he said, the Republicans are right to have said from the day one, even from the first day that Donald Trump was, even before he was inaugurated as a president of America, there were already talks of impeaching him and removing him. He won't last the next 2 days. Okay? And it continued. Now, an opportunity provided itself. Mr. President withheld what had been vowed, for a period of time. It's not that, he cornered it to himself. He withheld it and, used it as is being alleged to negotiate.
Is that not a crime?
No, I am coming. Okay? Because for me, my interest is what is beneficial to the average ordinary citizen. How does, Ukraine funding benefit an average American? It would have made a difference for me if Trump was accused of withholding, violence for American people. And hey, look at it from this moral argument, if we leave out politics. The man used it to say, okay, to talk about probing. And what was this probe supposed to unearth? It is wrongdoing against America. And you say no, he is doing it for political gains. And you are probing him for asking that another person be probed. And in the process, the logjam at the Senate is that the process itself is being skewed. And that is where, at the end of the day, it may not produce anything beneficial to the American people. Okay? It is just playing politics because election is just about a couple of months, weeks away in November. Okay? So what can we do to ensure that, well, even if he will want to contest, if either we damage his reputation or we make it impossible for him to be a candidate.
Right.
Okay, so by whichever means, it is political.
It is political.
It is political. Okay. And, sorry, let me just land on this.
Okay.
Okay, because he who comes to equity must come with clean hands. Okay? Now, why do they have a logjam? Transmit the articles, the charges, transmit it to Senate, so that Senate can begin their own work. You've done your investigations. Transmit the result of your investigations. You have impeached, you've indicted. Transmit the charges to the Senate so that they can now begin to adjudicate on it, because that is what actually the Senate is supposed to do with the Chief Justice presiding.
All right.
Okay. Now, the Speaker is withholding and giving condition. I want to know the rules that the Senate is going to apply before I transmit. Is there any precedent?
We'll come back to you on that. We'll come back to you on that. Asking for the rules before she transmits. Is that in the Constitution? Anyway, Williams Owaifo, you've heard Reverend, you've heard Barrister Chima Williams, and now they both agreed that this is all about politics. Now, Barrister Chima Williams went ahead to talk about he withheld. He didn't use it for his own personal gain. He said, investigate this man. That's why I choose to withhold it. And he too is being investigated. What is wrong in what he did? After all, it's not affecting an average American directly.
Well, you know, in climes like ours, some of these things are not strange because we live in all of it. You know, presidents insult, you know, pressmen, and nobody raises an alarm. Things are withheld, snakes swallow money. Those things are not surprising to us. So when I see an average Nigerian who is not alarmed by the actions of President Trump, I'm not too surprised. But if we are to...
But we talk about Republicans also, they are not alarmed by it. They be like, come on, he's our man.
They are. It's just that they come on TV to pretend like they are not. And when, you know, those who are private to their private conversations will tell you that a lot of them are really jittery about the way the whole impeachment saga is going. It's like being between the devil and the deep blue sea, because here you are trying to stand up for your party man, and on the other hand, posterity is there to judge you much later for the position you took today. So most of them are just in that crossroads and they don't really know what to do. But to bring things into context, in America, the American president or the American citizen is highly valued and is highly prized. So for you to be selling out your own citizen, those aides were voted for, or that money was voted for in 2017 by Congress, and Donald Trump signed for it, was released. It was voted for in 2018, and then it was released. And now, 2019, the year before election, months leading to the election, you are now asking for a probe into the person of Joe Biden and Hunter Biden. And it didn't just even start that day. Rudy Giuliani, who is the personal lawyer to the president, had been doing his own shadow diplomacy in Ukraine, seeking for death on Joe Biden. And what the American Congress is saying is that, look, this is an American citizen. Even if you had wanted investigations into Joe Biden, why didn't you ask the Department of Justice to do so? Why are you soliciting foreign help to help you do your dirty work? You could have instructed the Department of Justice to do so. I have always learned about, you know, American politics and their election, that you do not even send political materials, not jingles, nothing. You don't send anything to America to aid their election or to support any candidate. That's why in 2008, during the Barack Obama election, if you remember, our NSC boss as at the time was trying to raise money for Barack Obama in a dinner setting, and America had to, Obama campaign organization had to denounce her and say, we are not involved in whatever she's doing, because they are aware that it is not permissible by American laws for you to donate money and then funnel it to them. It is a crime against the American Constitution. So the fact that someone is now asking, the president, not even just any citizen, is now asking that a foreign president or a president of another country should investigate his own citizen. That is what is causing the alarm here. Right. And you didn't stop there. When they were trying to carry out their investigation, you now went ahead to try to stop witnesses from coming forward to testify. So what that meant was that there is a likelihood you are complicit in what you have been accused of, because the regular Republican defense would be that, oh, look, after some time the aid was released. It was not like it was held back for a long time. But that was after a whistleblower complaint that, look, I'm hearing from diplomats that the president of America is trying to get the president of Ukraine to investigate his political rival. And all the polls as at that time were showing that Joe Biden will beat Trump in a head-to-head matchup in come 2020.
Okay, like what I said earlier on, you get to see where they are leaning towards. Okay, fine. No need to like talk about Democratic inclination or Republican inclination. Now, let me come to you, Reverend. Let's talk about the transmission. Pelosi still refused, saying, look, we need to know the rule by which you, the senators, we used to really take a look at this. Do you think she's infringing on the rights of the Senate? After all, if you want to go by the Constitution, you should at least transmit it. Your findings.
Well, before I answer that question, let me get something clear a little bit.
Yeah.
My friend talked about the withholding the aids, that it has not affected any American citizen. There is an underlying principles that have been violated. The Ukrainian security and life is threatened by Russia. And the Americans and the European Union have put together themselves to aid that incursion. And part the money that was supposed to be was for military equipment to enable them. So when you're and there are American citizens in Ukraine. So when you're endangering the lives of the Ukraine, you're also endangering the lives of the Americans, and you're aiding Russia, which the Americans have all been up against in trying to to curtail their SSEs in that part of the country. So to them, it was an infringement on a right, on a moral responsibility of the Americans to the Ukraine. This is part of the problem that they talked about. Secondly, the fact that you asked, he didn't just do that, he did it when they were campaigning in presidency. He asked Russia to help dig up debts against Clinton.
And they did.
And they did. Through the surrogates and all.
Yeah.
So these are some of, they are saying, oh, you did it before. And after the investigation, even we will find out some things. And you are doing it, you are asking for that same thing again. It means if you don't stop you, then you will be inviting other people. He also invited China. You see some of the things. You are talking, he is an unconventional person. These are what people are talking about. Okay. But being unconventional does not excuse you from obeying the law. Okay, let's go back to the issue of transmission. Yeah. If you dig up history of the impeachment that have happened before, there have been bipartisan nature in the two impeachments. Whether that of what's his name now? Bill Clinton's one was the very recent.
Dixon and
even Bill Clinton's one, there was a unanimity in the parties. It wasn't a partisan issue. It was national interest. Yeah. Now, they're also saying to you, that's what the House of Reps said when they started. They asked the Republicans to participate. They participated as members of the committee. So it's not because but they were asked, let us join our forces together. There was now a partisan issue. People now believe, is that what people are asking? What is the difference between Donald Trump and the Republican as a party? That's what people cannot really still understand. Because as Republicans, the thing you're talking about now, and they played the tapes of Republicans during Clinton's impeachment, and here the statement they made, we need witnesses. Now they're saying, let's have witnesses. You're saying no. That's not, we're talking of transmission. The law did not state the time frame of transmission. The law didn't state it. The law said you will transmit. But before there's transmission, we'll look at what Clinton did, there was an agreement between the Democrat and of the rules of engagement. It was something that was done before. That's why you didn't have hue and cry. But now, the leader of the Senate, from beginning, made a statement that he was going to align himself with the State House in doing this issue. That's against the normal constitutional laws. Because in this matter, it is a separation between the legislature and the executive. Right. When you are aligning yourself with an accuser, they had right to transmit issues to you. The Senate minority leader, who is also from the Democrat, has also spoken to his people. Don't do this thing until we have an agreement, because when there's a transmission, they needed to rush it. And they said, look, we don't need to rush this matter. Let us have a fair trial, because the Constitution guarantees fair trial. What does fair trial mean? All cases are laid up both for the accused and those who are accusing. Let fair hearing be done. That's what this is my own. I don't. That way I look at the fact that the Republicans are standing on one side, the Democrats are standing on one side, is what I don't like about the politics of the issue.
All right.
They all should be saying this is one thing. So let's be able to say now that it has come to the place. That's okay. Let's hear these people, these witnesses. Okay, Donald Trump, bring your witnesses. Let the Democrat bring their witnesses. Let's cross-examine them.
Okay.
And now align the forces together and see where the thing goes.
All right. Now, he drew an example of what happened in the case of Bill Clinton, you know, Monica Lewinsky issue and the rest of them. Now, he talked about also the constitutional law didn't give a time frame for transmission and the call of witness because they're targeting Bolton. There was one time connected to Donald Trump. They wanted to come testify, but Republicans are saying no way for now. Take it up from there, Barrister Chima Williams.
You see, when we talk about, you know, fair hearing is not one-sided. It pretends that everybody has the right to air his own view, okay? And impartiality of everybody. Okay, now I will be the last person to say that whoever has infringed on the law should not be punished. But as a lawyer, what the law pretends is that it is better for 99 criminals to go free than for one innocent person to be punished unjustly. Okay, so this is where, you know, perhaps people hide under to get exculpated when there are doubts. And where is the doubt in this whole process? You know? And this is where the irony of the whole thing lies, where the taking stance lies. Okay? And even on the issue of transmission, I read that Nancy Pelosi is withholding because she is afraid that, you know, the Senate leadership will invoke the rules that were used for Clinton's, you know, probe or issue. So why should you be afraid if you are not having equally some political inclinations yourself? And the genesis of the whole thing, like, I mean, we should be human beings, okay? From the day one, this party have said that you were not going to last. And every step, they have been, you know, traps, if I may use that word, set to see that, you know, you are caught and to be undone, okay? If things were done and people saw it, you know, coming from the genuine interest of average American. Now, let's look at why is this thing happening? Even when we talk about Joe Biden, you know, a man that I like personally, because we believe in the same thing, okay? But the issue is this. Joe Biden is not yet the candidate of the Democrats.
But he's leading right now.
He's an aspirant.
Yeah, but he's leading.
No, we have
according
seen,
to opinion polls.
No, we have seen opinion polls being destroyed. Even the opinion poll on Trump, nobody gave Trump the opportunity of becoming the president. Okay? Nobody gave him the opportunity, all the opinion polls conducted, even becoming the candidate of the Republicans. But those, you know, polls were shattered.
What about the access of the witness?
Now, when it comes to the aspect of witnesses, okay, yes, the law is there. Witnesses can come up voluntarily to offer the information as they have it, which is what the whistleblower did. And the whistleblower that, you know, blew this open must have been connected somehow with Trump. That was why he was present where the discussions took place, so he wouldn't have been a stranger. Okay? Now, the other witnesses, some of them have been called, like, what's his name, Barcelona or whatever?
Yeah,
John
Bolton.
Bolton, sorry.
Yeah.
That said, if I am subpoenaed, I will come and testify. But voluntarily, I will not.
Yeah, because
And
they
the law
invoke some things.
And the law allows for people to be subpoenaed.
All right.
Okay? But at the same time, what I see when I'm presenting my case before a judge, I will see it from my own favorable perspective, but the judge may see it differently from the way I see it.
Okay.
Which is the reason why, at the end of the day, a judge will pass judgments that may favor one person and disfavor the other, no matter what you think.
All right.
So now, in this instance, okay, the House, dominated by the Democrats, have done what they think is right. And they have moved up to the Senate that is dominated by the Republicans. Why wouldn't they allow them to do what they equally think that is right?
I'll come back to you on that.
Everybody, for all the actions that everybody takes, there is posterity to judge the person.
Okay, I'll come back to you, Barrister Chima Williams. Now, it's like I have two parties here, the Democrats and the Republicans.
Have two parties.
And and the Republicans.
What you have,
anyway,
what you have are people that are making positions, because, like when my younger brother said, you know, an average Nigerian that does not seem to see.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, we can never see things from the same perspective.
Mm.
You see it where it favors you or where you think it is right.
Okay.
I like to stand for where I think it is right, even if I'm the only one standing.
Okay, I'll come back to you, Barrister Chima Williams. Now, let's take a look at the witnesses right now. Bolton is being called upon, but he said if this will subpoena him, he's going to appear. If not, he wants to stay clear. And from what Barrister Chima Williams talked about, you being a witness is voluntary. All right? And also, we talk about the Republicans, the Democrats, they have their own way in the House of Representatives. So why wouldn't you allow the Republicans also to have their way in the Senate? Take it up from there.
Well, Reverend already made it very clear, and that's the true position of things, that, look, the public hearings that the Democrats had when this matter was at the House level was very open. Republicans were asked to participate. They were involved. In fact, normal process is that you start from, you know, a closed hearing, and then you move over to public hearings. When it was a closed hearing, the Republicans went there. They stormed the place and said they were carrying out a shadow investigation. They needed to know what was going on, as though their members were not part of the investigation committee. So they've always tried to make it look political.
Yeah, which
is not outrightly true. No,
Williams, what about the Democrats?
It's not outrightly true, because if you remember, you've been saying that.
So
they said
I agree with you.
Since he came in,
I am not saying anything.
They said since he came in that they've been wanting to impeach him. That's not. Yes, there may have been calls that, look, this man is very unethical, which is true.
But everybody who wanted to impeach him, really?
Everybody always wanted to remove him.
No, they didn't. No, wait. If you remember, Nancy Pelosi at a time, when the Russian investigation was going on, Trump did this same thing, obstructing Congress, which is actually an impeachable offense, because you are trying to infringe on a co-arm of government that is supposed to be independent. Yeah. They ask for witnesses to come. You go behind to try to stop those witnesses. You intimidate witnesses. These are things American presidents are not known to do. So the fact that, just like Reverend said, the fact that you say you are unconventional doesn't now mean that you have that permission to start breaking laws. That's what Trump wants. Trump wants to be left alone to do what he likes. He doesn't want to be checked. He doesn't want anyone asking for accountability. And when you ask him, he just says, oh, you are being political. It's because you don't like me. But are you such a likable person? If you said that you can go on Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and not lose a vote, and then you've made all sorts of comments, you've called people who work with you dogs, and then people have been saying, look, we need to even impeach this man for being unfit to handle that office. Which I think there is a lot of credibility. No, there's a lot of credibility. No, he is the one who didn't wait. He is the one who didn't wait. He didn't wait for Americans to decide the election because he was now trying to use a foreign government to influence the decision of the Americans by saying, look, start an investigation on this man. Just the way he was touting Hillary Clinton as corrupt because you asked Russians to bring out debt. He said it openly. And Donald Trump thinks that the more brazen his abuse of power is, the more people are going to be insensitive about it and just say, oh, it is the way the man is. But the fact that you are brazen about it doesn't mean that it is correct. So you are now saying that, look, the Senate Majority Leader, Mitch McConnell, was already saying that, look, he's not interested in what witnesses have to say. He's not interested in any evidence. That he's just going to run through this process and just acquit the president. And that's why Nancy Pelosi now said, look, we need to know the rules of engagement here before I transmit. Yes, and I think it's a plausible argument. Okay. If you're already saying before something comes to you, no, even if you're already saying that before something comes to you, that it's not going to be fair. And now, in her own wise thinking, let us lay the rules down so that when we start, we are bound by those rules. And let's not forget that even when Trump was obstructing Congress during the Mueller investigation, people were calling for his impeachment. And Nancy Pelosi said, impeachments are usually too partisan. I don't want to go down that road. Right. She has tried to restrain herself, but this man wants to be impeached.
All right. Now, from what Pelosi said, impeachment is too partisan, and that is what Americans and the world, they are really observing in all these proceedings. Now, the statement of Mitch, if you want to take a look at it from all angles, from all perspectives, we'll just bring it, let's do it right now. I don't even want to hear because it's like the Republicans develop their mind on what to do. If that is the case, do you see this being a fair hearing in the Senate? After all, the leader in the House says that this is what they really want to do. That was when it was before the House of Representatives.
You see, the issue of fairness is not even coming in again from beginning. Let's be frank to ourselves, because my lawyer, learned lawyer, knows that when you're using the jury, they say the jury must be impartial. Yeah. The jury must not consider evidences based on newspaper reports or based on other people's influence, which means they must be unapproachable during the period of that trial. But here we have the people who have already decided what they want to do. From beginning to the end, even if he didn't, Clinton was impeached but was not removed. Yeah. His own was even moral. Everybody talked about morality. Mm-hmm. This one, there's a lot of things. But the party has stood on its own to say, look, there's a difference between the party and the representatives in the Senate or in the House of Reps. Because there's a distance between the party itself now and those people who believe that they are for Trump because Trump has a lot of things to do with them. But we are saying, again, even the presence of the Chief Justice also is not even final, because the law says that even if the Chief Justice allows evidences, the Senate can decide by majority whether to allow it or not. That again is on his own. So I would have expected the senator who knew what the issues were to not to be making statements that people already said you are biased.
But they already know what the issues were.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's one of the things. You see, that's why the House of Reps knew that with their majority they know where they were going. So they weren't making noise. They did what they want to do and they came out with that. With all the threats from Donald Trump and all of that. But you also know one of the things that is very funny about President Trump. Every subpoena that has been subpoenaed, he has gone against all of them. And so that's why the House will say, look, we're not going to be waiting for subpoena this time. Because we know if we talk about subpoena, by next year we'll still be here. So we want to make sure, you see, impeachment is just a caution to the president to say you're not above the law.
Yeah.
You can be called to order. That's what impeachment is. That's what impeachment is. And that's why it's after impeachment, which is an indictable thing, it goes back for trial.
Yeah.
It is in the trial we now see whether it is weighty enough to, and the weight, that's why I say is political. Impeachment is political.
Anywhere.
It is stated. Because they didn't want judicial involvement in whoever the people have elected. That's why they said, let the people's elected individuals represent the people in determining whether the president should be there or not. So these are the issues. And even Benetton has issued a statement to two of them. He has threatened the chairman of House of Reps Judiciary.
The president of the United States.
That's some of the things.
President of the United
You are
States.
threatening individuals. Everybody.
Not a third world country.
Any person who testified, even to the House of Reps, were threatened. That's some of the things. He is the only president whose executive system has almost emptied before the 1 year ends, 4 year ends. People have left because they were no longer able to do what they do with their conscience. How will you remove an ambassador? Some of the things, because your lawyer says he's obstructing what he wants to do. And yet the lawyer has no legal right by constitution to do what he's doing.
All right.
Because they're a personal lawyer.
Okay.
It's like what we're talking about. You know, even the justice the other day said the Minister for Justice has no right to give the president the official lawyers to handle his case. It's a personal, but yet we do it. But that's what they're telling him. You can't do this thing. And once you know what is right to be done, you're not doing it. So to me, the only thing I take out of what the House of Reps have done is to give a little bit of caution to the president that please be presidential and don't think that nobody can question you.
All right, I'll come back to you, Reverend, now about the threats issue. Really, he issued warnings. We all know that, and that is like the person of President Trump. Sometimes people like saying that he is too erratic, but according to some few persons, they're saying that this nature always, from antecedent, even up to date, works for him. From what Reverend said, the Republicans, they want to do what the Democrats did in the House. I mean, what sense can you make out of all this?
You see, like my brother quoted Nancy Pelosi, saying that impeachment is always political, and that is why it should be the last thing to be done. Now, why play politics when there are issues that are to be addressed? You see, the laws are there, and the law is no respecter of anybody. Doesn't matter how much you execute your propaganda, or you tell lies. The law is the law. Okay? Therefore, yes, impeachment, probably, what we should understand is that American impeachment is different from Nigerian impeachment. Okay? Because in Nigeria, once that word impeached had been pronounced, you pack your notes and you leave. Okay? But in America, you will be impeached, which is like caution, warning, or the first step to establish whether there is a prima facie case against you to be further, adjudicated upon before it goes, and there are different tiers before finally the removal can happen. Now, if we understand that, and we know definitely politicians will always be politicians. There is no politician that is a moralist. Okay? That is a moralist.
Yeah.
Therefore, if you know the Republicans didn't interfere with the processes at the House because they knew that no matter what they say or do, the House has made up their mind, the Democrats, the opposition had made up their minds
yeah.
to impeach.
I'll tell
they
you,
say, okay,
gentlemen, please continue
you
up
can
right
admit
now.
us of-
Yeah.
So, but my whole summary, my whole conclusion is that in anything that you are doing, whether as Mr. President, if Mr. President threatens me, I'll wait for him. By the time he leaves office, he becomes an ordinary citizen. Criminal liability does not
Okay.
die.
Thank
Okay?
you. Thank you. Thank you. Our time is up, totally up, because I've been getting signal to call it a wrap on this show. Not to worry, Williams, there's nothing for you to have a last statement on this. I'm so sorry about it, but I believe that this case is still ongoing. We are watching. We'll get to see the outcome, and I'm going to invite this same set of guys to talk about it. People are like expecting an outcome. What if it goes the other way? What then happens? What if he remains? What then happens? See you next week. Bye for now.
This is ITV. Certainly the best.